The moment I stepped inside her house, the lavender hit me first, warm, fresh, alive. But she wasn't. She was nowhere to be found. And what I uncovered in her attic was something she'd been hiding for 42 years. I've been a home visit nurse for 10 years, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Houses tell stories their owners never speak aloud. Some homes are messy, chaotic, loud. Some are silent, heavy with secrets. And some, rare ones, feel like they're holding their breath the moment you step inside. This was one of those homes. Her name was Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, 78, widowed, living alone in a quiet suburban street lined with oak trees that creaked like old bones. She had been referred to me for post-fall care, nothing unusual. Just a few daily check-ins. But from the moment I stepped onto her porch, something felt preserved. Like nothing in that house had moved in a very long time. I knocked. No answer. I rang. Silence. But then, it happened. The door drifted open, by itself. A thin crack. Just enough for the lavender smell to escape and wrap around me like soft, perfumed fog. I froze on the doorstep. Lavender. Strong. Fresh. Recent. Too recent. Mrs. Whitmore? I called, leaning in. Nothing. I pushed the door open gently. It's Nurse Riley from Mercy Home Care. Still nothing. But the smell, that lavender and something else, freshly baked bread, pulled me forward like an invisible hand. A scent so warm I swear for a second I thought someone must be standing inside the kitchen, oven mitts on, waiting for a guest. But nobody was. All the lights were off. No TV. No footsteps. Just lavender and bread. A strange combination, like comfort mixed with memory. Inside, the house was spotless. Not clean, spotless. Books perfectly aligned. Tablecloth without a single wrinkle. Couch cushions arranged like a photograph from a furniture catalog. A life frozen mid-breath. Mrs. Whitmore? I called louder. The house swallowed my voice. I took a cautious step deeper inside. My shoes barely made a sound on the polished floor. Everything was too still, too perfect. And that's when I noticed the first odd thing. Something small. Easy to miss. A teacup. Perfectly set on the kitchen counter. With steam rising from it. My heart dropped. It was fresh. Minutes old. Hello? My voice cracked slightly. I wasn't alone. She had to be somewhere. Bathroom? Bedroom? Had she fallen again? I hurried down the hallway, checking doors. Bathroom empty. Bedroom empty, the bed perfectly made. Guest room empty. My last option, the attic. The small square door in the ceiling hung slightly open, just an inch, but I noticed it. I stood beneath it, staring up. That's when something extremely faint, so faint I thought I imagined it, touched my ears. A sound. A soft, rhythmic hum? Or maybe, sobbing? I held my breath and listened harder. It was definitely coming from the attic. I grabbed the pull string, tugged it down, and the wooden ladder unfolded with a creak that echoed through the house like a warning. I climbed halfway up. And froze. Because the lavender smell was strongest up here. Almost suffocating. But I also saw something else. Something that didn't belong in an attic. Not in any attic I've ever seen. A single lit candle. And beside it, a chair. Wooden. Simple. Facing away from me. As if someone was sitting there. Mrs. Whitmore. I whispered. The humming stopped. Silence. My fingers tightened on the ladder. That moment, right there, felt wrong. Like I'd stepped into a memory that wasn't mine. I climbed another step. Mrs. Whitmore. Before I could finish her name, something flickered in my peripheral vision. Movement. A shadow, crossing the attic floor. My heart slammed against my ribs. I wanted to back away, but my feet refused to move. "Hello?" I said, and even I heard the fear in my voice. The shadow paused. Then slowly, turned toward me. My breath hitched. But then, it wasn't a person. It was a curtain. A thin lace curtain swaying from an open attic window. The breeze had cast the shadow across the floor. Just a curtain. Just a window. Just a breeze. But why was the window open on a cold day? Why was there a candle burning next to an empty chair? Why did the scent of lavender feel almost alive? I forced myself up the last few steps into the attic. My shoes thudded on the wooden planks. The room felt different from the rest of the house. Less perfect. More sacred. Boxes stacked. Old blankets. Dusty furniture hidden under white sheets. And there, at the center, the candle. The chair. And a small wooden table with something placed carefully on top. A photograph. My eyes narrowed as I leaned closer. A young woman. Long brown hair. Lavender fields behind her. But her face was blurred, not from age. From tears. The photograph had water stains, dripped across her features. Someone had been crying over this picture. My heart tightened. Was Mrs. Whitmore mourning someone? Had she come up here, reliving a memory, and fallen? I called out again, voice echoing against the rafters. "Mrs. Whitmore, if you're here, I need you to respond." Silence. I scanned the room. Nothing. No movement. No footprints in the dust. Just that single candle burning its way down. I knelt to examine the photograph. The young woman wore a necklace. A distinctive pendant. Shaped like a small lavender sprig. Beautiful and unique. Then, out of nowhere, a floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around so fast the candle flame flickered violently. "Mrs. Whitmore?" Silence. I swallowed hard. The attic felt colder suddenly. Like someone had opened a freezer door. My instinct screamed. "You need to get out. Now." But before I could move, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I answered immediately. "Yes?" "Hi, is this Nurse Riley?" a voice asked. Young. Calm. Female. "Yes, who is this?" "This is dispatch. We received a call from your location. A distress signal." My blood ran cold. "What?" "I didn't call." The dispatcher paused. "Someone from inside the house did." I looked around the attic slowly. Every hair on my arm stood up. The dispatcher continued. "The caller said, she's not supposed to be here." My throat tightened. Who said that?" Again, silence. Then, the call disconnected right after that. "Police are en route." My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Someone else was in this house. But where? I took a shaky breath and stepped backward toward the ladder. And that's when something caught my eye. A small detail I hadn't noticed before. The chair. The candle. The photograph. The lavender fields. The pendant. And right below the picture, a handwritten note. One sentence. One that made my stomach drop. "Forgive me, Eleanor. I didn't mean to leave you alone again." For a long moment, all I could do was stare at the handwritten note lying beneath the photograph. A single sentence. A quiet confession. "Forgive me, Eleanor. I didn't mean to leave you alone again." Again. That word hit me hardest. It implied a previous abandonment, a previous heartbreak, a wound that never fully healed. But what struck me even more was this. The handwriting didn't look old. The ink wasn't faded or cracked. It looked recent. fresh. As if someone had written it just days ago. Maybe hours. I felt a light tremor crawl up my back. Who wrote it? And where were they now? Downstairs, the house remained unnervingly silent. Too silent. Only the soft whisper of the attic window's breeze and the steady, slow burn of the candle kept me anchored in reality. The kind of silence that feels like someone is listening. Waiting. I forced myself to breathe slowly. I wasn't new to strange homes or unsettling atmospheres. But this was different. This felt deliberate. Arranged. Like I had stepped into the middle of a life I wasn't meant to see. My phone remained pressed to my ear, the dispatcher speaking again. Ma'am? Are you safe? Officers are 2 minutes away. I swallowed hard. I don't know, I whispered. A creak echoed from below. A slow, dragging kind of sound. Would meeting wait? My fingers tightened around my phone. Someone else is inside, I murmured. The dispatcher kept speaking, her tone controlled yet urgent. Stay where you are if you feel unsafe. Do not confront anyone. Officers will. A sudden bang cut through the house. Something slammed shut downstairs. I flinched, gripping the ladder instinctively. The dispatcher's voice sharpened, Ma'am? What was that? I don't know. The attic felt like the last safe place in the house, but even up here, the air felt thick, like it had absorbed decades of secrets. Secrets that were now watching me. I slid the note toward me carefully, lifting it from the table. The paper trembled in my hands. Not from a breeze. From me. The words were written with shaky strokes, like the writer had been crying, or fighting emotion with every letter. Forgive me, Eleanor. Forgive me. The candle flame quivered. A tiny flicker. And suddenly, I felt it again. The presence. Not imagined. Not paranoia. Someone, or something, was in this house. I placed the note back on the table gently and decided. I needed to get out of the attic. I descended the ladder slowly, each step creaking under my weight. My breath came in shallow pulls. Halfway down, I paused. The lavender scent, which had been strongest upstairs, was drifting downward now. Like it was following me. Or leading me. I reached the hallway floor and looked around. Still empty. Still perfect. Still wrong. My mind raced. Where was Mrs. Whitmore? Why was a candle burning upstairs? Who wrote that note? Who made the call saying she's not supposed to be here? And why? Why did the tea on the counter still have steam rising from it? I walked toward the kitchen, forcing my footsteps light. The cup remained exactly as I'd left it. Untouched. Unmoved. But still warm. I leaned closer. A faint lipstick mark, soft pink, on the rim. Mrs. Whitmore? Possibly. But something gnawed at me. Why would she leave a hot cup of tea untouched and vanish? Why would she go upstairs? Why would she leave the window open in the attic? Unless. A soft thud echoed behind me. I turned instantly, heart hammering. Living room. Just beyond the archway. My hand shakily reached for the small flashlight clipped to my bag. I powered it on and stepped forward. The living room was dim. Curtains drawn. The couch untouched. The rug undisturbed. But then I saw it. On the far wall. One of the picture frames was crooked. Not much. Barely noticeable. But I would have remembered if it looked like that before. My pulse throbbed in my ears. I walked toward it slowly. The picture was of Eleanor and her husband, a younger version of her, smiling beside a tall, handsome man with green eyes and a gentle grin. Someone had touched this frame. Someone had moved it. My hand hovered near the edge of the frame. Then. Another sound. Behind me. A whisper-soft rustle. Almost nothing. but enough to send a cold shock through my spine. I spun around, shining the flashlight into the hallway. Nothing. But then my gaze dropped to the floorboards. My breath caught. A footprint. A dusty, barely there print near the base of the stairs. Fresh. New. Not mine. Shoe pattern didn't match. And I had been nowhere near the staircase. Someone had gone upstairs. Someone had come downstairs. Someone had walked this hallway moments ago. My mouth went dry. I whispered, "Hello." The house didn't answer. But something shifted in the silence. A tension. A pull. I took a step toward the stairway. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, a text message. Unknown number. No contact saved. Just one line. Don't trust the house. My blood iced. I stared at the message, my fingers trembling. Was someone watching me? Was someone inside? Was the message sent by the same person who made the emergency call? Or, was it sent by the person hiding here right now? Before I could process it, headlights flashed through the living room window. The police. 2 officers stepped out, their radios crackling. Relief washed over me, briefly. I swung the door open the moment they approached. "Are you Nurse Riley?" the taller officer asked. Yes, please come in. Someone's inside the house." They exchanged a quick look. "Stay behind us," the female officer instructed, hand resting on her holster. I nodded, breath tight. The officers entered, scanning each corner inch by inch. Kitchen clear. Living room clear. Bathroom clear. When they reached the hallway, the male officer crouched beside the footprint I'd seen. "Fresh," he muttered. The female officer motioned upward. "The attic?" "Yeah." They moved carefully, weapons drawn, flashlights slicing through the shadows. I stayed back, gripping my bag to steady my shaking hands. The ladder was still down. The candlelight flickered faintly in the attic above. The male officer ascended first, then the female. "Police," his voice thundered. "Announce yourself." Silence. The attic absorbed the command quietly, almost respectfully. A moment later, the female officer called down. "Clear. Clear." The word echoed through my mind in disbelief. How could it be clear? I had heard footsteps. I had seen the shadow. I had found the footprint. I had seen the candle burning beside the chair. And yet, no one. The officers came back down. "There's nobody up there," the female officer repeated. "But the candle, someone lit it," I insisted. She nodded carefully. "That does seem strange." The male officer spoke next. "We'll sweep the rest of the house. Stay here." My chest tightened. "Do you believe me?" He paused. "I believe you heard something. And something happened here. That distress call wasn't accidental." He looked toward the front window. "But whatever made it, isn't here now." The words chilled me deeper than if he'd said the opposite. Was someone slipping in and out? Watching for patterns? Lurking? Or, was I dealing with something more complex? As the officers continued their sweep, I walked back toward the kitchen, drawn inexplicably toward the teacup again. But this time, something else caught my eye. A notebook. Small. Blue. Sitting on the counter beside the cup. I hadn't seen it before. It must have been placed there. Recently. While I was upstairs. Or while I was talking to the police. My heart pounded. I reached for the notebook slowly, cautiously, like it might burn me. The cover was soft leather, worn from years of being held. The first page had delicate handwriting. "Lavender keeps the memories alive." My breath hitched. Page 2. "But memories can hurt, when they grow too strong." Page 3. "Today, I saw him again." A shiver rolled through me. Saw who? Her husband? A stranger? Someone she lost? I flipped further. More entries. Dozens. Trembling handwriting. Blurred ink. Tear stains. And then, halfway through, I found an entry that made my stomach drop so fast it felt like I'd fallen through the floor. He comes back only when I light the lavender candle. He sits in the chair. He doesn't talk anymore. But he comes back. My hand shook so violently I almost dropped the notebook. So the candle. The chair. The window. The attic. This wasn't random. This was ritual. Routine. A desperate attempt to bring someone back. But who? And then I saw the next line. One that made my entire body go still. He knows I'm dying soon. I think he's preparing to take me with him. The room swayed. My knees weakened. I flipped the page. Blank. Then the next. Blank. Then the next. One final line, written with shaky, frantic ink strokes. If someone finds this notebook, please tell them I didn't leave willingly. I froze. Didn't leave willingly? Leave where? With who? Go where? Behind me, the officers returned. Nothing, the female officer said. No forced entry. No intruder. Her voice softened. But, are you sure you weren't just startled? I handed her the notebook. She flipped through it, her expression shifting from polite skepticism to dawning alarm. The male officer read over her shoulder. Both went silent. A heavy silence. Finally, he exhaled. This isn't normal, he muttered. The female officer agreed. We need to put out an alert for Mrs. Whitmore. She may be missing and endangered. I swallowed. Hard. She wasn't just missing. She was taken. Or she followed someone. Or something. The officers continued discussing search procedures, but their voices faded as my eyes drifted to the staircase once more. And that's when I saw it. A shadow. Quick. Silent. Rising up the staircase. As if someone had just climbed into the attic again. Even though the officers had just cleared it. My breath iced in my lungs. Because the shadow, it wasn't shaped like me. It wasn't shaped like either officer. It was shaped like a tall man. And in that split second before it faded, I saw it. He was wearing the same pendant as the woman in the attic photograph. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. The shadow on the staircase wasn't a trick of light. It wasn't a misreading. It wasn't the officers moving behind me. It was a man. Tall. Still. Watching. And wearing the same lavender sprig pendant from the attic photo. The moment my flashlight beam hit the stairs, the shadow dissolved, like mist folding into darkness. The male officer stepped forward. What did you see? My voice cracked. Someone went upstairs. He raised his flashlight. Stay here. The female officer followed him, hands hovering near her weapon. I remained near the kitchen doorway, gripping the blue notebook so tightly the edges dug into my palms. They ascended the ladder quickly. Police. Come out with your hands visible. No sound. My heart thumped so loudly it felt like it was echoing off the walls. Then. We've got nothing, the male officer called down. Attic is clear. Clear. Again. But I saw him. I know I did. I backed away from the stairs and looked toward the living room. The crooked picture frame caught my eye again, Eleanor and her husband smiling in lavender fields. Her husband. The pendant. The note in the attic. Forgive me, Eleanor. A cold realization slid through me like ice. That shadow wasn't a stranger. It was him. But that didn't make sense. Her husband was dead. She lived alone. Her medical file mentioned widowhood for 26 years. Unless he hadn't left the house. Not completely. The officers returned to the hallway, radioing for backup and a missing person response team. The female officer approached me gently. "We believe something happened here. But until we find Mrs. Whitmore, stay close." I nodded tightly. But my attention drifted toward the staircase again. The attic felt like a heartbeat of its own, pulsing, waiting. The female officer walked toward the front door, speaking into her radio, while the male officer checked windows. Their voices faded into background noise. Because something else was pulling me. The scent. Lavender. Stronger now. Drifting down the stairs in soft waves. Not from a candle. Not from perfume. From movement. Someone, or something, was up there. I took a step toward the staircase before logic could stop me. The lavender grew stronger. Another step. Stronger. My heart raced as the attic ladder loomed above me, still unfolded, still creaking slightly with each breath of the house. The male officer saw me moving. "Ma'am, don't go up." But before he could finish, a soft sound floated down from the attic. Not a creak. Not a footstep. A humming. A woman's voice. Soft. Gentle. Almost rocking. A lullaby. My skin prickled. The officer froze. He heard it too. "What the hell?" he whispered. The lullaby wasn't random. It was a melody I recognized from the notebook. Page 14. He used to hum this when he braided my hair. Eleanor. She was up there. Or, something was mimicking her. The male officer signaled me to stay put, then climbed the ladder with his gun drawn. "Hands up," he shouted as he breached the attic. The humming stopped instantly. Silence. Complete, suffocating silence. The female officer sprinted back inside, weapon ready. She joined him in the attic. Seconds dragged on like hours. Then. "We found something," the male officer yelled down. I ran to the ladder before I could think twice. "Stay back," the female officer warned, but I climbed a few steps anyway, just enough to see into the attic. And what I saw made my blood freeze. The candle was out. The chair was gone. Completely gone, like it had never been there. And in its place sat a dried lavender wreath. Perfectly preserved. Placed in the exact circle where the chair had been. But that wasn't what stole my breath. Beside the wreath lay a second photograph. One I hadn't seen before. The female officer picked it up carefully. It showed Eleanor, older, frielier, sitting in that very attic, head bowed, eyes swollen from crying. And standing behind her. Her husband. Alive. Whole. Hands resting gently on her shoulders. But the date written at the bottom. In a shaky, trembling hand. Made my stomach drop. 4 days ago. "This is impossible," the male officer whispered. A cold, tense silence filled the attic. The female officer looked at me. "Did you leave this here?" I shook my head violently. No. No, none of that was there earlier. Her eyes narrowed. "So it appeared on its own? In a cleared attic? With 2 officers inside?" Before I could respond, something caught my eye at the far corner of the attic. Movement. Small. A flash of white. Fabric? The male officer spun, gun raised. But as the flashlight hit the corner, my breath caught. A door. A tiny door. Half height. Built into the wall. Hidden behind stacked boxes. A storage crawlspace. The officers exchanged a look. "I'll check it," the male officer said. He moved the boxes aside. Dust swirled through the air. The small door creaked as he opened it. And immediately stumbled back. "Jesus!" He clutched his weapon tighter. What is it? I cried. He didn't answer. The female officer rushed to the door, flashlight in hand. And then I saw it too. Inside the crawlspace, laid out neatly on a faded quilt, was a nightgown. A woman's nightgown. Still warm. And next to it, a letter. Folded. Addressed in elegant handwriting. For the nurse who will come looking for me. My breath stopped. The female officer handed it to me. I think it's for you. My fingers shook as I unfolded the letter. It took me a moment to find my voice. The letter read, "If you are reading this, I have followed him. I didn't want to. But he needs me. Please tell them I didn't run away. I only answered the door when he knocked." Answer the door? Who knocked? Her husband? Someone wearing his pendant? Something pretending to be him? Before I could process it, the attic bulb flickered once, twice. Then, everything went dark. Complete darkness. A breath brushed the back of my neck. Soft. Slow. And a whisper followed, so close it brushed my ear. She shouldn't have opened it. When I reached the attic one last time, the lavender scent felt heavier than ever, like the air itself was trying to warn me. My flashlight beam shook as I raised it toward the far corner, the one place I hadn't dared inspect. A thin, wooden box rested there. It wasn't dusty. Someone had touched it recently. My heart thudded. I knelt, lifted the lid, and froze. Inside were letters, hundreds of them, all addressed to my Rose. Some were decades old, ink fading. Others looked almost new, written in the same looping handwriting. The same handwriting as the note I found in her bedroom. The one begging her not to die yet. I picked up the newest envelope, dated only 2 weeks ago, and unfolded it. Rose. I miss you every hour. I promise I'll keep the lavender warm. Don't leave me alone in this house. Not yet. H. Not had missed. Not remembered. Mississippi promise. Keep. Present tense. My blood ran cold. Someone had been writing to Rose long after she died. Someone was still here. I swallowed hard and slowly stood. Hello? My voice trembled before leaving my throat. If someone lives here, I'm a nurse, I'm not here to hurt you. Silence. Then, a floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, heart crashing into my ribs. No one there. But the lavender smell suddenly intensified, becoming almost choking. The air turned colder. My breath fogged in front of me. And from the stairs, I heard it. Thump. 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 Slow, deliberate footsteps climbing up. But I knew those steps. I'd heard them on my first day, faint in the hallway when I thought it was just the house settling. I backed toward the attic window, pulse roaring in my ears. Who's there? I whispered. Another step. Closer. Then a man's voice, soft, broken, almost pleading. Rose? No. No, no, no. I stumbled back, nearly knocking over a trunk. I'm not her, I managed to choke out. I'm Jenny. I'm just here to help. The footsteps stopped. A long, shaky breath came from the dark stairwell. Then the voice again. Don't leave me too. My scalp prickled. My throat tightened. My instinct screamed to run, but something else, something deeper, kept me rooted. This wasn't a monster. This was grief. Grief that had become so heavy it clung to the walls. Are you Henry? I whispered. Silence. Then. Yes. Barely audible. A ghost of a sound. A man who had stopped living the day his wife did. My fear melted into something else. Something painful. Henry. Rose is gone, I said gently. She loved you. But she's gone. The attic air shifted, the lavender scent thinning, the cold fading. A sigh swept through the room, long and tired. I know, the voice said. I just didn't know how to let her leave. For a moment, the house felt unbearably quiet. Then the footsteps turned, and slowly went back down the stairs. I followed, trembling. But halfway down, the steps simply stopped. When I reached the bottom, the house was empty. The lavender scent finally began to disappear. Henry had let go. Or finally allowed himself to. I walked out of the house into the dusk, heart full, eyes stinging. Some love stories don't end. They simply change. They linger. They haunt. They shape the people who walk through their remnants. And sometimes, if you're a nurse like me, you get the honor of witnessing the moment someone finally says goodbye. If this story moved you even a little. If you've ever lost someone you weren't ready to let go of, comment I remember. So we can honor them together. And if you want more realistic, emotional nurse stories like this one, subscribe to The Silent Caretaker. Because I have many more stories to tell. Stories that live in quiet homes, in fading memories, and in the spaces grief refuses to leave.